Once upon a time, all of us was in chains. You can't compare the Holocaust to what happened to slaves.
Never would.
Them concentration camps wasn't even in the States. Somehow they still getting reparations to this day.
That's fucked up.
Them white folks is using black folks to make them richer. Bible said Jesus people had descriptions of religion. So miss me with this guy's white stuff. Because Mook, we the original Jews and they not like us. You're not even a Jew. You're not even a Jew. You Jewish. You're not even a Jew. You Jewish. I just want to vent. You see, the key word in Jewish is ish. Means to some extent. So bum repent or find your whole family wedded. Now you got to get your mother, father, uncle, and your anti-Semitics. If all your people If all your people this evil, I don't knock Hitler, bro. Because y'all built the first slave ships after y'all got niggas' trust. So I brought German protection. Call the cops if you want. Let's not see what side you on when the swastika sucks.
This is Revelations 11:11. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. Shalom, Kahala Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Ruach. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles and elders of the great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, for the house of David reborn again in this generation. And shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the video we just watched and how that is pretty much prophecy playing out before our eyes. Right, we're going to go through and talk about that scene. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and break this scripture down. Because you see, currently in our historic timeline, we are currently living through the events of Revelations 11. If you're unsure what Revelations 11 is about, it's pretty much about the Israelites waking back up and realizing who they are. Because remember, in Jeremiah 17:4, the Lord put a curse upon us, Negro, Latino, Native Americans, the Israelites, that we would lose our heritage, that we would forget who we were. And how did the Lord do that? Well, He did it by the conquest, the wars, and the captivities that we all went through. Okay, this is why the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, we all have a similar downfall and similar captivity. And that's because these were all curses put upon us Israelites. Now, what we're reading here, it tells us that after 3.5 days, which is basically 350 days, which is when you look, for the most part, the slavery that took place here in America, after 350 years, that pretty much leads you into like the mid-1900s. Okay, now what happened in the mid-1900s? Well, the Lord, He started to wake us up. And how did He do that? Well, He fulfilled the prophecy that He would bring John the Baptist, or as it says in the scripture, Elijah, before the great and horrible day of the Lord. Okay, and He did that when He woke up the prophet Abba Bivens, the man who basically started what you would refer to today as the Hebrew Israelite movement, right? Because again, when Abba Bivens, he went to the Commandment Keepers, he went to, which was basically a Jewish Ashkenazi school of so-called Negroes, learning the Jewish customs and having a semblance of understanding that they were connected to the Bible in one way or another. But it wasn't until Abba Bivens joined the school that the Lord pretty much gave him a revelation that not only was it the Negroes, but it was the Latinos and Native Americans that were also part of that circle, which today, like I said, is known as the Israelites. And he also put it on Abba Bivens' spirit that he should not be learning any of the Jewish customs, right? Which is what the commandment keepers were teaching, right? And this is why ultimately Abba Bivens left the commandment keepers and started his own school, right? The UPC, right? And from there, that's where this whole thing of ours started, right? And then later on, the Lord broke that school up because it became corrupt, and ultimately you had the seven that came after him, right? And they basically started teaching, right? And then the Lord broke up that school, and then eventually then the surviving members, right, the righteous members, went on to create the House of David, right, with King Mashal, which again was King David in the reincarnation. And from that school, the Lord again broke it up because again it was time for sifting. And what came from the House of David? Well, it came the apostles of Great Millstone, and Great Millstone, the school itself. Okay, and that is currently where the holy procession of leadership has fallen upon, right? Starting with Apostle Tahar, Apostle Gabar, and Apostle Ramlab, and Apostle Rakah, and all the other apostles, right? That are out there teaching and showing us Israelites the way back to the ways of our fathers, as it told you in prophecy. And what we just watched in that video are straight up Israelites, right, who have heard this truth here and there, more likely, to the point where they now understand it, to where they can now sing about it, right? And they could put it in the face of our enemies. Because again, remember, just a couple of years ago, this information that we have was all fringe information. Okay, it was information that when you heard it, you kind of thought you know the people were crazy, right? A lot of people didn't believe this. A lot of people thought this was just some sort of fad. But what eventually ended up happening is that little by little, by the preaching of this word constantly and going out, this eventually got into the ears of a lot of our people. And that information kept growing and growing. And like I said, it got to the point where this kind of became common knowledge amongst our people, at least those that are in the know, you know, that is, right? The people of our people who tend to be the ones always up on game or you know, keeping their ear to the ground. These people started to learn about it, and they started to then push it to their circles. And this is where you got people like these rappers here, or people like Candace Owens, or Nick Cannon, and all these other people within our, you know, nation that start to talk about this, who are not within necessarily the Hebrew Israelites, you know, schools, but are in just general society. And now they're bringing it out as if they've been watching the videos. And why is that? Well, because they have been watching the videos. And why is that? Because prophecy is playing out. This is Baruch 2:30. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves. And that's what's going on, right? Those rappers in the beginning of this video, they remembered themselves. They remembered that they were the Israelites, that they are the people written about in the scriptures, and like it tells you here in Revelations, right? Notice that Amalekite, because again, that so-called Jewish person that Judite was rapping against in that battle, notice he couldn't say anything, right? In fact, he was agreeing with him when that Judite said you can't compare the Holocaust to what happened to the slaves. And that Amalekite was nodding his head in compliance, understanding that what we went through was a lot more dire than what they went through, right? And the thing is that and it's funny, when you go in that video, you could even see the Edomite in the background, right? He wasn't even smiling, right? When in the very beginning he says, and once upon a time we were all in chains. Everybody was laughing in that group except for the Edomite and the Amalekite, Okay? And why is that? Well, because there is a deep-seated understanding that they were behind it. Right? But it's mostly Amalek that orchestrated and did all the logistics about it. Slavery, that is. And it was only Edom that pretty much was hired by Amalek to fulfill, the wishes of Edom. But, I digress. But the whole point being is that now that this information has gone out, it has become part of the lexicon, right? It's become part of the social dialectic. Okay, our people, right? They are so comfortable now with the idea that we are the Hebrew Israelites that they're making jokes about it, right? Other brothers have highlighted some of these videos, showing how these people thinking that this is funny are actually marking themselves. But the point being is that these people are only making fun of it because they understand that this is something amongst our people. It has become common. And because now it is a common point of knowledge amongst our people, it's now starting to get out. And it's getting out beyond our nation, right? And what's happening? Well, other people are starting to see this, right? I want you to go back to that video in the beginning of this lesson, and I want you to look at that face of that Amalekite. Okay, look at the fear that is on his face when he's being called out for not being a Jew, for being a Jewish, right? Even though he was trying to smile and it was all awkward and corny, that was fear in that guy's eyes, right? And when you consider all the people who have brought up the Hebrew Israelites, right? And when I say all the people, I'm talking about these other nations, right? These Edomites, the Mizraimites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, all these people, when they hear about this understanding, at first they laugh it off. They don't even consider it. But little by little, they are going to start hearing more and more people speak about this. And what's going to happen when they start seeing that this is more than just a joke, it's more than just a fringe idea, that it actually has a standing, a foundation of truth to it. And then eventually they're going to realize that, holy crap, these are the Israelites spoken about in the Bible. And they're going to then consider, wow, we've done all these horrible things to them. And then what's going to happen after that? Well, great fear fell upon them which saw them. Right? And why is that? Why is fear going to fall upon the heathens? Well, because the heathens have been doing a very bad job. As one of the elders says, man, in North Carolina, says, man, you are in trouble. Right? These heathens are in trouble for what they have done to us. And yes, you have a lot of these ignorant Edomites talking about, well, the white people went into slavery too. Well, there's a whole different story of the way that so-called white people went into slavery, which a lot of those were pretty much Israelites that just had pale skin. But besides the point, a lot of that was indentured servitude because they pretty much couldn't pay their debts. Now, when you look at the slavery that happened to the Negro, Latino, and Native Americans, that was hardcore bondage. That was, not only was it more devastating and cruel than the other forms of slavery before then, but it was against God's chosen people, okay? So not only did these heathens take advantage of us and perform an act so cruel that we had forgotten who we were. That's how devastated we had become as a people, that we forgot who we were. They beat it out of us, okay, literally. Now when you consider that in itself is bad. But like I just said, we are the Lord's children. We are the people that the Lord chose out of all the people of the earth to be the chosen people to lead humanity into the next realm of existence, right? When the Lord comes back and resets the world. But that's why they're afraid, right? Because they've done that to the Lord's children. And besides that, these Edomites are going to be even more afraid, and that's because of this. This is Ezekiel 36:5. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, power. Surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession, with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey. You see, these Edomites, not only did they perpetrate a cruel captivity upon us, but they also have stolen the holy land of the Lord. They took the land which belonged to the Lord and whom the Lord gave unto us. Right? They came in and saw nobody was home, and they just pretty much set up shop and said they live there now and that they were the original owners. Right? And that's contrary to the truth. And the world now is starting to know it, to the point where they're now making silly rap battles about it, and they can't fight against this truth. Okay, these devils are through, and there ain't nothing that they could do about it. And I just wanted to show this video to show you, man, that this truth, it's getting out there. Okay, it's getting out there so much that now all those people in the crowd understood what that man was saying, even though he was saying it in a clever, hidden way, using those beautiful word puzzles of putting words together and expressing the deepness of this. That's how much this truth has gotten out, okay, so that people can now understand it in their own terms. This is Wisdom of Solomon 5:1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him, and made no account of his labors. And that's what we just watched, right? That Judite was standing in great boldness in front of Amalek, the people, as he had just noted, that were responsible for the slave trade, right? The ships, who also owned the insurance companies, who owned the farms, who pretty much initiated the North Atlantic slave trade, right? And why is that? Well, because we are more righteous than our enemies, right? Us, when we have this truth, it's the electricity to a light bulb. It turns us on, right? It makes us understand what's really going on, right? And in doing so, we now know who we are. We know what's going on and what's at stake here, okay? That we are the true rulers of the world, and these devils who say they are the chosen people, they're not. They're the imposters that have moved in and started to claim that they were us. This 2 Thessalonians 2:3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. And we're coming out of this, right? We're coming out of the great falling away, where the Negro, Latino, Native Americans fell away from their heritage, as it says we would in Jeremiah 17:4, where we forgot who we were. We forgot our ways, our customs. Should I say our ways, but we were still performing our customs, right? Testimony shows this in historic records, showing that the Latinos and Native Americans were still performing Hebrew Israelism in their rituals and in their actions, right? From carrying a box into battle like the priest would with the ark, from keeping Sabbath, from keeping the yearly Passovers. But we called them different names because we were speaking different languages. And the same goes for the Southern Kingdom, or the so-called Negroes. They also had Hebrew Israelism rituals, right? There's evidence of them showing that the first so-called Negro slave plantations and some of these churches had Hebrew writing in them.
This is First African Baptist Church, the oldest black church in North America. The building built by slaves. The gentleman that laid the first brick laid the last. The balcony hold pews that actually were built by slaves. They have the oldest information in this building. That information is written in cursive Hebrew writing. That information is written in cursive Hebrew writing. That information is written in cursive Hebrew writing. Written in cursive.
Well, that's because the people that were brought over were the Hebrew Israelites, right? That came from the west coast of Africa over here to the Americas to join up with their brethren that had already been in captivity for about 100 years. And the beloved up-and-coming elder, Kazak, he actually brought out a beautiful lesson showing that the names of the slaves brought over on those Khazar-owned slave ships had Hebrew names. Right? How could they have had Hebrew names when supposedly Christianity wasn't introduced to them yet? Right? They were savages over in Africa. Well, that's because they were the Israelites that fled Jerusalem in 70 AD when the Romans attacked and destroyed it. Right? And they fled down into Africa, just like Abraham did, just like the Messiah did. Right? This is so evident now, but that's because the Lord has put it in our spirits to see the connections. Before the Spirit was upon us, we were those moving bones, but had no breath of life. Right? You had the apostles out here teaching, but this truth hadn't permeated into our culture yet. It hadn't become a part of our lexicon, but it is now, and that's why you're seeing things like this. You're seeing rap battles where they're bringing out straight out facts, and our enemies can't even naysay against it. So either way, I thought this was an amazing video. That brother destroyed that Amalekite, man. It was beautiful to watch, man, and it's only going to get worse for them and better for us. So hope this video was edifying. Until the next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Ruach HaKodesh. Shalom.